What's going on, y'all? I'm about to give you guys a crash course on exactly why you shouldn't be using synthetic fertilizers on your lawn. So one of the biggest problems with synthetic fertilizer is the way you have to apply it. Most of us have no idea how, when to apply this stuff. I mean, we don't really know what's even in the bag or what any of the numbers on the bag mean. Let's take this fertilizer for example. The first number is always the nitrogen, 1500. So this has 15 for the nitrogen, phosphorus, and 0 for the potassium. So let's deal with this nitrogen. That's going to be the first number on all your fertilizer bags, and it represents how much nitrogen is in that bag, percentage-wise. So let's take a 10-10-10 fertilizer, for example, and it's a 50-pound bag of 10-10-10. So 10% of that 50 pounds is actually nitrogen. So that would mean there's only 5 pounds of nitrogen in that bag. Did you know that the recommendation for nitrogen put out on the lawn is between 4 and 6 pounds per year? So that's not a big deal. However, there's some more calculations you need to do because that pound of nitrogen is rated per 1,000 square feet. So it's actually 4 pounds, between 4 and 6 pounds of nitrogen used within a year per 1,000 square feet. Y'all still with me? So that means you need to calculate how much square footage that you have, how much nitrogen is in the bag, and the weight of what you're putting out to stay within the guidelines. And to make matters worse, depending on your soil makeup, different lawns can hold different amounts of nutrient like nitrogen, because the sandier your soil is, the less nitrogen it holds, and the more clay your soil is, the more nitrogen. All that don't really matter because, as I said before, we're all putting this stuff down wrong. So let me do this experiment for you. This is going to signify your lawn. This is the dirt in your lawn. And this is the fertilizer. This is going to be the fertilizer. This is what we are all doing. So when you're throwing your fertilizer off into the lawn, and when it reaches its capacity, you can see what it's doing. It's overflowing. That's because you're adding more nitrogen than your soil can hold. And that is called the CEC, the cation exchange capacity. And most homeowners don't know that. So let me pause right quick and let you know what happens to nitrogen when it goes into the lawn. There's 3 things that happen to it. 1, it gets used up by the plant, all the vegetation. 2, it evaporates into the air, contributing to the ozone. And 3, it'll wash off into the waterways, the rivers and streams, underground water. It moves. It does not stay in the lawn. And right now, I'd like to ask a question. How many of us are doing these calculations, measuring out our fertilizer, the per pound that we're putting out, and trying to spread it on our lawn so we can adhere to the 4 to 6 pound a year rule? Just like I thought, 90% of us don't do that. So that means 10% of the people are claiming that they do that. And I'm going to tell you right now, of those 10%, 90% are lying. So that means only 1% of the population of users that use fertilizers are adhering to that. Only 1%. The rest of us, well, you know. There's so much that happens when we over-fertilize our lawn that it is crazy. But I'm just using this just a tidbit of why you should stop using this stuff. Because, like I stated before, nitrogen, it moves around. Synthetic fertilizers move around. It doesn't stay in the lawn. It evaporates into the air and it gets in the stream or it gets used up. And when the plant has its full fill, it pukes it. It just cannot hold any other nitrogen. So all the nitrogen that you're throwing out there ends up in the waterways, feeding the algae taking up a lot of the oxygen from the marine life that's in the, oh man. And we don't even want to talk about climate change and ozone. So that's what we basically are all doing when we use this stuff, because none of us are adhering strictly to the amount of nitrogen that's going down on the ground. And one more thing, when it comes down to the synthetic nitrogen, it's all the same. So when people ask you, oh, what type of fertilizer, what you putting down, when it comes down to this nitrogen, those N, P, and K, it's all the same stuff. It may be derived from ammonium, or some of them is derived from urea, but it's still synthetic nitrogen and it's the same stuff. So it doesn't make sense when someone say what type of fertilizer, and if it's a synthetic, it's all the same stuff. The numbers on there only say what percentage of that stuff is in the bag, not the difference in the type of fertilizer. It just tell you how much is in there. A 10-10-10 is the exact same thing as a 5-5-5, or 30-30-30, or even 30-30-50. It's just the amount of that synthetic product that's inside that bag. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. I can't put all this stuff in one video. I have to break it down in increments because it's a lot to break down. But if you stick with me, by the time you finish with all these video series that I'm about to put out there, you'll be well in the know and understand where you're getting ripped off at, and where you are being misled, and where you are wasting money. And your knowledge base will be huge, and you will be having a green lawn with minimum effort. Like and subscribe to my channel. Check out my YouTube channel for more in-depth stuff. But I'm trying to get all this stuff out there. I want to get the message out there as to why. So we got the first reason why is misuse.